morning, students. Today's topic is sources of business finance. So, as we know, finance is the lifeblood of any organization. It is the most important factor of any organization. In the absence of adequate finance, no business can conduct its activities efficiently, and it is not possible to expand business without adequate finance. So what are the characteristics of business finance? First one is necessary for all types of businesses. So business finance is necessary for every type of organization, whether it is manufacturing concern, it is trading concern. Finance is required for all the activities. The need of finance generally depend upon the size and nature of business. Next is depend on the size of business. So as discussed earlier, the quantity of finance directly depend on the size of business. Larger the business, larger is the requirement of finance, and smaller the size of business and limited quantity of finance is required. And next one is includes all types of capital. So when we talk about finance, it includes both owner's capital as well as debt capital. Next is fluctuating nature. So the main factors that influence the need of finance in the business are level of business, inflation, increase or decrease in demand, sales and purchase on cash or credit basis. As we know, all these factors keeps on changing, so the requirement of finance also keep on changing with changing factors. Determines the size of business. The size of business depend on the availability of finance. More the availability of money, the larger will be the size of organization. Last one is wider term. Business finance is a wider term. It includes the estimate of finance required, arrangement of finance, and its a proper utilization. So these are the characteristics of business finance. Next is significance or importance of business finance. First one is necessary for establishing a business. So finance is required for purchasing fixed assets like building, land, machinery, furniture, and initial expenditure for its establishment. So it is just like a dream to think of establishing business without sufficient finance. Means without adequate finance, no business enterprise can be established. Next is necessary for running the business. As we know, finance is required for purchasing raw material to launching finished products. It is also required for conducting its day-to-day activities. So finance is necessary for running the business efficiently. Necessary for the modernization and expansion of business. Modernization means installing new and modern machinery in place of old one. Such steps can be taken only if the organization has adequate finance. Point is necessary for availing business opportunities. Opportunities to earn profit come many a time in the business. These opportunities can be availed only with the help of sufficient finance. For example, if the prices of raw material are increasing continuously, then if the business organization has adequate finance, then it can purchase raw material in bulk and can avail cash discount, and it can avail economies of large scale. Next is necessary for facing recession. A business can survive during the period of recession only if it has plenty of finance. And the next one is necessary for increasing goodwill. The goodwill of business organization generally depend on the finance, because if a business organization has adequate quantity of finance, it can make prompt payment to the supplier, so it will help the organization to increase its goodwill. So these were the points of importance of business finance. Next is financial requirement. So every business requires different kinds of finance, which is obtained from different sources. So on the basis of time, financial requirement can be divided into three parts. First one is long-term financial needs. So when finance is needed for a longer period of time, generally for 10 years or more, it will be termed as long-term financial needs. A business organization need long-term finance for purchasing, building, machinery or land, means for purchasing its fixed asset. Next is medium-term financial needs. When finance is required for a period of up to 10 years, from 1 year to 10 years, it will be termed as medium-term financial needs. So the medium-term finance is required for replacement of old machinery, for research and development activities, etc. Next is short-term financial needs. So when finance is required for current accounting year, or we can say that when finance is needed for less than 1 year, it will be termed as short-term financial needs. So short-term finance is required for the purchase of raw material, payment of day-to-day expenses like wages, rent, transportation, etc. So these are the requirements of business organization. So next is sources of business finance. So the sources of business and finance are given in the following chart. So long-term financial requirements can be met by issuing of equity shares, preference shares, debentures, by retaining profits of the firm, etc. And medium-term financial requirements of firm can be met by issuing of debentures, preference shares, public deposits, commercial banks, etc. And the short-term requirements of business finance can be met by taking loans from commercial banks, by availing trade credit from the supplier, and also from intercorporate deposits. So these are the sources from which the requirement of finance can be met. So from the point of view of ownership, the sources of finance can be divided into two parts. First one is owned funds, second one is borrowed funds. So owned funds, in case of owned funds, the capital of owner of business comes under the category of owner's funds. It is got from three sources. First one is equity share capital, second one is preference share capital, and the last one is plowing back of profits or through retained earnings. And the finance which is taken in the form of loan from banks, financial institutions and public comes under the category of borrowed funds. So excluding the source of owned fund, all the other sources of business finance are included in the category of borrowed funds. So what is the difference between borrowed funds and owner's funds? First one is meaning. So owner's fund refers to the fund provided by the owner of the business, and borrow fund refers to the finance which is taken from outside the organization as a loan, can be termed as borrowed funds. So owner's fund includes equity share capital, preference shares, retained earnings, global depository receipts, American depository receipts, and IDRs. And debentures and bonds, loans from financial institutions, loans from commercial banks, intercorporate deposits are the form of borrowed funds. Next is requirement of security. So for owners funds, no security is required, but if company wants to borrow funds from outside, then the company has to offer a security to banks. Next is consideration. So on this fund, the owner get a profit by way of a consideration. Means the person who supplies capital will get dividend or profit. On the other hand, the lender will get interest by way of consideration in case of borrowed fund. Next is period of investment. So owners fund are generally for a longer period of time. Means long term financial requirements can be met with the help of owners funds, whereas short term financial requirements can be met with the help of borrowed funds. And the last one is control over business. So the providers of this fund have a control over the management of business, whereas the provider of this fund have no control over the management of business. Means person who provide capital to the firm are the real owner of the organization, whereas from the lender is not the owner of the organization, so he will not control the organization. So these are the points of differentiation between owners fund and borrowed fund. So next is the sources of finance. First one is equity shares. So equity shares refers to those shares which do not carry any preferential right in the payment of annual dividend and repayment of capital in case of wound up of the company. So capital that is to be mobilized by issuing shares to the outsiders will be termed as share capital, and information regarding the capital which can be raised from the general public must be mentioned in the memorandum of article of association, and the capital which can be raised from the general public throughout the lifetime of organization will be termed as registered capital or nominal capital, and the amount which is collected by issuing equity share will be termed as equity share capital, and the person who hold or who purchases these equity shares will be termed as equity share holders. The holder of equity share are the real owner of the business organization. They have the full right to vote in the meetings of the companies. Also, the holder of equity share will appoint the directors of the company to run the organization. And the rate of dividend on equity share is not fixed. And equity shareholders are paid after paying dividend to preference shareholder. Second is preference shares. So it refers to those shares which carry preferential rights in the payment of annual dividend and repayment of capital in case of wound up of the company. So following two preferences are provided to equity shareholder. As already discussed, dividend is paid to them prior to equity shareholder. Means firstly, dividend will be paid to the preference shareholder. If any amount left, then it will be distributed to the equity shareholder, and rate of dividend provided to preference shareholder is generally fixed. And second one is in case of wound up of the company, the preference shareholders get priority over equity shareholder over the repayment of their capital. So these are the priorities which are given to the preference shareholder over equity shareholder. So next is the difference between equity shares and preference share. First one is participation in management. The holder of equity share have full right to participate in the management, whereas the holder of preference shares have no right to participate in the management. Next is sequence of dividend. Dividend is paid last of all, means after paying all the payments to outsiders or making paying dividend to preference shareholder, whatever is left is distributed between the equity shareholder. Whereas in case of preference share, dividend is paid before the equity shareholder. Next is sequence of refund of capital. On wound up of the company, capital is refunded to the equity shareholder after preference shareholder, whereas capital is refunded before equity shareholder to the preference shareholder. Next is a refund of equity, refund of capital during life. Company cannot refund equity capital during its life, whereas capital can be refunded in case of redeemable preference shares. Next is permanency of dividend. Dividend is not fixed in case of equity shareholder. It keeps on changing, whereas rate of dividend is fixed in case of preference share. And the last one is cumulative nature. Dividend does not accumulate. Dividend of previous year is not payable in the current year, whereas in case of preference share, dividend keeps on accumulating, means if shareholders did not get their dividend in previous year, they will be given dividend in the current year. So these are the points of differentiation between equity shares and preference share. Next one is debenture. Debentures are an important source of long-term and medium-term finance. Debentures are the creditors of the company. It is like a loan from the outsider by the company. So the holder of debentures will be termed as debenture holder, and the holder of debenture will be paid a fixed rate of interest every year. So whether a company earns profit or not, debenture holder will be paid interest at regular intervals. Generally the interest is paid on half yearly basis or on quarterly basis. So next is the difference between debentures and shares. First one is relationship with the company. So debenture holders are the creditors of the company, whereas shareholders are the owners of the company. Next is consideration. For providing or for purchasing debentures, debenture holders will get interest on their payment, whereas if a person purchases shares, then he will get dividend in case of profit. Next is participation in management. Debenture holders have no right to participate in the management, whereas holder of shares have a right to participate in the management of the company. Next is a refund of capital. Except irredeemable debentures, capital is refunded in respect of all other debenture, whereas in case of shares, except redeemable preference share, company does not refund capital in respect of all other kinds of shares. And the last one is sequence of refund. So payment is made to debenture holder before shareholder, whereas shares holder of shares will be paid at last after paying all the dues to other parties. So these are the points of differentiation between debentures and shares. Next is plowing back of profits. So company does ordinarily company does not distribute all its profit among the shareholders as dividend. Sometimes when a company earns huge profits, then it retain certain amount of profit in the general reserve for the expansion purpose or for utilization of these reserves in case any opportunity arises. So this general reserve is used by the company to develop and expand its activities. So use of undistributed profit in this manner will be termed as plowing back of profits. So plowing back of profit will also be termed as self-financing. So companies needs development and expansion for its large amount of finance. It is quite expensive to obtain this finance from external sources. So under the circumstances, it is most appropriate to invest a part of the profit in the business. So this is the reason due to which companies create general reserve. Next one is special financial institutions. So companies raise large amount of finance by issuing shares and debentures, but that finance is not adequate due to rise in the cost of project. So sometimes these companies raise finance from financial institutions which were set up for the purpose of providing large amount of long-term and medium-term finance to the industries. So these industries are, some of the examples of these industries are given, like Industrial Finance Corporation of India, ICICI, IDBI, Unit Trust of India, and Life Insurance Corporation of India are some of the examples of these financial institutions which provide finance to the organizations for their long-term purposes or for medium-term purposes. Next is public deposits. Public deposit is an important source of finance for organizations. Organizations met their medium-term and short-term financial requirements through public deposit. Under public deposits, a company raises loan from the public for a fixed period of time at a fixed rate of interest. Generally, the period of deposit ranges from 6 months to 3 years. The rate of interest provided by companies on these deposits is generally more than the rate of interest provided by bank for the same period of deposit. Next is commercial banks. Commercial banks are the main source of raising short-term finance. So the commercial bank helps the business organization in many ways, like by providing overdraft facility, by providing cash credits, short-term loans, and discounting of bill receivables. So overdraft is customers who have current account with the banks are allowed to withdraw more money than in their account. This facility will be termed as overdraft facility. Means customer can withdraw excessive money from their accounts. Next is cash credit. Under cash credit, a bank grants the right to its customer to borrow money up to certain limits by providing security. So out of the sanctioned money, customer withdrew the amount according to their needs. And it is to be noted that the customer pays rate of interest only the amount actually utilized by person, not on the amount of credit provided by the bank. Next is short-term loans. Bank gives loan to its customer in one lump sum amount. And the last one is discounting of bill receivables. Under this facility, a bank discounts bill receivables of its customer. For this facility, bank charges nominal amount of commission from its customer. Next is trade credit. In business, credit facility dominates in sale and purchase transaction. So credit purchase is a kind of short-term finance. Under this facility, goods purchased on credit are used immediately, but their payment is made after some time. So the duration of this source of finance depends upon the discretion of the seller. So it is an important source of finance. Next one is intercorporate deposits. Intercorporate deposits are unsecured short-term deposits made by one company with another companies. These deposits are generally broker deposits, which led the involvement of brokers. The rate of interest on these deposits is higher than that of rate of interest provided by bank for the same time period. So there are many types of intercorporate deposits. First one is 3-month deposit. It is the most popular type of intercorporate deposits. The deposits are generally considered by the borrower to solve problems of short-term capital requirements. And the annual rate of interest given for 3-month deposit is around 12%. Next is 6-month deposit. So it is usually made with first class borrowers, and the annual rate of interest provided to the depositor is generally 15%. And next one is call deposits. So the concept of call deposit is different from the other concepts. The deposit can be withdrawn by the lender on a day's notice, and annual rate of interest provided on this deposit is around 10%. So these are the kinds of intercorporate deposits. So what are the features of intercorporate deposits? First one is these transactions take place between two companies, and through intercorporate deposits short-term requirements of finance can be met. And these intercorporate deposits are unsecured deposits, means no security will be provided to company. These transactions are generally completed through brokers, means there will be a party which will act as a broker between the companies, and generally the rate of interest provided on these deposits is more than that of rate of interest provided by the banks. So these are risky deposits from the viewpoint of lender because of the absence of securities. These deposits have no organized markets, and no legal formalities are required for these deposits. Next is global depository receipts. Global depository receipt is an instrument which the companies of a country issue in US dollar in order to obtain foreign capitals. They are traded in all those foreign share markets where they have been listed. Like GDRs issued by Reliance Industries are listed on the New York Stock Exchange. Therefore, transactions of sale purchase of these GDR can be made only on this exchange only. So what are the features of GDR? GDRs can be listed on any American and European stock exchange, and in some cases one GDR represent more than one shares, like one GDR may be equal to 4 shares, one GDR may be equal to 5 share, or even equal to 10 shares, and the bearer of GDR can get them convert into shares, and the holder of GDR has no right to vote in the company. However, the shares do have the vote. The dividend on GDR is quite like the dividend on shares, and GDRs are always in US dollar denominations. So next is what is the issue process of GDRs? So first of all, the company who wants to issue GDRs hand over its shares to some domestic custodian bank. Then the domestic custodian bank requests some overseas depository bank situated in some foreign country for issuing the shares at a GDR. The process of GDR is shown in the diagram. First one is issuing company. Then issuing company will deposit its shares to the domestic custodian bank. Then domestic custodian bank will make contact with overseas depository bank. Then overseas depository bank will issue these GDRs to foreign investors. For example, if Reliance Industries wants to raise capital from some European market, then he will issue some shares to the Indian bank whose branch is in that country, or who has a friendly relation with some overseas bank. So firstly, Reliance company will transfer its shares to the domestic custodian bank, for example SBI. Then SBI will transfer these shares to the overseas depository bank in the form of GDR, and then that overseas bank will issue the shares to the foreign investors, and he will collect the money from those investors. Then he will transfer the funds to the domestic custodian bank, and again domestic custodian bank will transfer the same money to the issuing company. So in this way the process of GDR works. Next is the advantages of GDR. First one is getting foreign capital. So the Indian companies can get foreign capital through the medium of GDR. It makes sufficient finance available with them. Next is more liquidity. There is more liquidity in the GDR as compared to the shares, because these are issued by the financially sound companies. Next is increase in goodwill of company. A company that issues GDR gains reputation in the foreign market. So the reputation directly affects the sales volume of that company. Next is lowering floating cost. So a company has to bear less expenses in issuing GDR as compared to the issuing expenses of shares. Next is better share price. So a company earns more price by issuing GDR instead of issuing them as shares in the domestic market, because issuing of GDR is an indicator of good financial position of the company. And the last one is scattered shareholder. So the issue of GDR makes it possible for the shareholders to cross the domestic boundaries and spread far and wide. So this ends the financial problem of the company, and it comes to be recognized on a global basis. So these are the advantages of GDR. Next is American Depository Receipt. When GDR are when these depository receipts are issued in America for raising US dollars, then it will be termed as ADR. So the features of ADR are ADR can be listed on any American stock exchange. A single ADR can represent more than one share. The holder of ADR can get them convert into shares at any point of time. The holder of ADR will not get any kind of voting rights in the meetings, and the dividend paid on ADR is similar to that of dividend on shares. And the last one is ADRs are always in the US denominations. So the features of ADR are similar to that of GDR. So next is issuing process of ADR. Issue process of ADR is similar to that of GDR. So we have already discussed about the process of GDR. So the advantages of ADR are similar. First one is getting foreign capital through by issuing ADR. Companies can get US dollars. Next is more liquidity. So by issuing ADR, goodwill of the company is increased. So it will help to increase the sales volume. Issuing ADR is less expensive as compared to the issue of shares. And next is better share price can be fetched by way of ADR. And the last one is increases the shareholders in the foreign market. So these are the advantages of ADR. And last one is Indian depository receipt. So IDRs are like GDRs or ADRs. So when any foreign company wants to raise funds from the Indian market, then he will then that company will issue their shares into the Indian market in the form of IDRs, and they can raise capital by way of IDRs. IDRs are generally in the rupees form, like the American depository receipts are in the US denominations, US dollar denominations. So IDRs will be in rupee denominations. IDRs can be listed on any stock exchange in India. So the features of IDR are IDRs are issued by in the foreign company into the Indian market, and IDRs can be listed on any Indian stock exchange. Single IDR can represent more than one share also. So the holder of IDR have no voting right in the company. So the features of IDR is similar to that of ADR and GDR, and the process of IDR is similar to that of ADR. And the advantages of IDR is it provides it's a listing facility to foreign companies. So by way of IDRs, foreign companies can get themselves registered on Indian stock exchanges. So IDRs provide popularity to foreign companies in the host market, and it satisfies the capital requirement of the foreign company. So these are the global depository receipts, Indian depository receipts, and American depository receipts. I hope the chapter of sources of business finance is clear to all of you. So thank you, students.